In 1912, as tensions in Europe built toward the outbreak of World War I, the world was oblivious to the far greater danger looming above. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand may have been the spark that ignited the war in the eyes of history, but an invisible invasion was already beginning. The alien species known as the Silari had been watching Earth for centuries, studying humanity. They were not like the classic invaders in our stories. No colossal ships filling the sky, no armies marching on the streets. The Silari preferred stealth, manipulation, and taking over societies from within. In early 1912, they began their conquest. Chapter 1. The Disguised Ones. The Silari were shapeshifters, capable of perfectly mimicking human form. Their ability to blend in was their greatest weapon. They infiltrated governments, military ranks, and high society, posing as key figures in politics, business, and science. Slowly but surely, they positioned themselves at the heart of global power. Their goal was to destabilize human nations from within, pushing them towards self-destruction. Through secret meetings, political assassinations, and manipulation of communication networks, the Silari began to create fractures between nations. Unrest grew in the Balkans, alliances crumbled, and mysterious deaths swept through the world's leaders. Those who resisted or grew suspicious were quickly eliminated, their disappearances explained away by fabricated scandals or illness. By mid-1912, the stage was set. The Silari had orchestrated a world on the brink of war. Chapter 2. The Awakening of a Few. But not everyone was fooled. Deep in the shadows of London, a group of independent scientists and exiled spies began to notice strange patterns. At the center of their investigation was Dr. Evelyn Carter, a brilliant but eccentric physicist who had stumbled upon strange energy readings while working on wireless radio transmissions. Carter discovered that certain individuals emanated a non-human energy signature, detectable only through highly sensitive equipment she had been developing. At first, her colleagues thought she was mad, but as more key figures in British and European governments fell under this strange influence, it became harder to ignore the evidence. Carter teamed up with Captain Marcus Hughes, an officer in the British Army who had uncovered odd occurrences within military ranks. Soldiers going missing and then reappearing, their behavior slightly off. Together, they began tracking the alien infiltrators, discovering the extent of the Silari's reach. By the fall of 1912, Carter and Hughes had assembled a small, secretive group, scientists, soldiers, and a handful of foreign operatives from France and Russia who shared their suspicions. They called themselves the Sentinels. Armed with Carter's detection devices, they started to hunt down the Silari one by one, targeting key individuals who had been replaced. Chapter 3. The Plan for Global Chaos. The Silari's plan was simple but brilliant. Push the world powers into war, watch the ensuing chaos, and then swoop in to clean up the ruins. They had been waiting for a century for humanity to develop the technology necessary for them to use Earth as a new base for expansion. World War I, with its potential for unprecedented destruction, was the perfect tool to destabilize the planet and pave the way for full-scale invasion. The Sentinels learned that the Silari were accelerating their plans. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, an event that would ignite the Great War, was set to take place under their manipulation. Silari agents had already infiltrated both the Austro-Hungarian court and the Serbian nationalist movements, pushing both sides toward conflict. The Sentinels knew they had little time to act, but the enemy was everywhere, and the few in positions of power who could help were either already compromised or too afraid to believe the impossible. Chapter 4. The Battle in the Shadows. In early June 1912, the Sentinels intercepted critical communications between Silari agents. They had uncovered the final details of the assassination plan and a list of key government figures set to be replaced by Silari imposters. This wasn't just about war between nations anymore, this was the survival of the human race. The Sentinels launched a daring mission to stop the Silari before they could set their final plan in motion. They raided a hidden Silari base beneath the forests outside Vienna. There, they discovered a vast underground network where the shapeshifters were planning to deploy weapons far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. Energy-based technologies capable of wiping out entire cities. The battle was fierce as the Silari used their advanced weapons against the small human force. But with Dr. Carter's energy disruptors and Captain Hughes' military tactics, the Sentinels managed to sabotage the Silari's operations. They destroyed the base, but not before learning the chilling truth. The Silari were merely scouts for a larger invasion force waiting in the outer reaches of the solar system. Chapter 5. The Hidden War continues. Though they had won a small victory, the Sentinels knew the war was far from over. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand took place as planned in June 1914, and the world spiraled into the global conflict that became World War I. Behind the scenes, the Silari continued their efforts to destabilize nations, but thanks to the Sentinels, their influence was diminished, and many of their agents were neutralized. As the Great War raged on, the Sentinels worked in the shadows, protecting key figures and preventing further Silari infiltration. The truth of the alien threat remained hidden from the public, as the governments of the world refused to acknowledge the existence of extraterrestrial life, fearing mass panic. Dr. Carter and Captain Hughes continued their battle against the Silari long after the war ended, forming a secret organization dedicated to hunting down alien threats and protecting humanity. As they grew older, they trained new recruits, passing on their knowledge of the Silari and their advanced technology. But they knew one thing for certain: the Silari weren't gone. They were still out there, waiting for humanity to make a mistake, to weaken itself once again, so they could return and claim what they believed was rightfully theirs. Epilogue: The Waiting Shadows. In the years that followed, the history books would tell the story of World War I as a conflict of human nations, political power and old empires crumbling. But hidden deep within classified documents and secret societies, the real story, the story of the alien infiltration, was never told. The Silari had lost their battle in 1912, but their war wasn't over, and somewhere in the far reaches of space, their reinforcements were watching, waiting for the moment when humanity would once again be vulnerable.